I'm not exactly sure which one's going to go. Hey everybody, Shifu the cards here. I did it. I made legend. So, pretty excited. Or rank 15, you're going to call it. You see right there at the top. 45, 40, 15. Feel really good, man. It took a while, not going to lie. It was a struggle. It was man, it wasn't easy. Okay, just so you know, it wasn't easy. So how did I do it, right? So personal journey, real quick story. I didn't stream for a while, sick, work, a lot of different factors. But one of the also reasons I made a promise to myself. I was stuck at rank 12, and I'm sure a lot of you are at a rank right now where you want to be rank 15, you want to be legend, and you're stuck, right? You're hitting monster consumes, you're hitting Skellige discard, you're hitting Nilfgaard control, you're hitting one of the nasty decks out there. And you're like, man, I can't do it. Well, especially me, I've made content since the beginning, or maybe you don't know. So I made different decks, and I love to build decks. I think I'm a pretty good player. I mean, look, ask Commander's Horn, they've taken most of my stuff. So I was kind of stuck, and I thought to myself, I'm not going to go ahead, I'm not going to stream until I hit rank 13, and I'm stuck. I couldn't do it. So then I found this deck, and I'll be honest with you, unlike other people, I'm going to give credit where inspiration is due. And Life Coach had made a similar deck, and I watched him make legend, and he didn't really know a lot about Gwent, just made a very simple deck, and he just with pure card playing got there. So I looked at it, I said, well, most of my decks I run up against Skellige was the deck that kept on really stalling me, right? So I went ahead and made a Skellige deck, and what I'd called it was the Bluff and Puff. And why I called it that is it is a bluff deck. One of the things about Gwent is be the wild card. You're the wild card. Well, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean I'm a wild card? I'm not a card. What it is you can with this deck, even you, with this deck you can outplay your opponent. You can bluff him. You can trick him into thinking you have something that you don't have. For example, the first round, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to play a War Longship. Now that's going to signal to your opponent is, oh my god, it's a Skellige discard deck, and they're going to get nervous. Their pants are going to get a little tighter, and they're going to start to clinch up a little bit. Well, don't worry about that. Let them get nervous. Let them think you're going to discard. There's only two things in your deck that activate it: Ermion and your ability, and your hero ability. So it's really just a bluff. You have a little bit of it, but you're not built around it. It's just basically a win and bluff round one, win round one. So what you're doing is you're just kind of setting the seeds that you'll bluff later on. That's the first bluff. That's part of the bluff and puff. So you're trying to win round one. Now you can, if you have Ermion in your opening hand and you have King Brand, you can technically do a lot of damage and win round one. But generally you're demoralizing them into taking round one and they'll pass. So you want to play it smart, especially who you're playing against. The second round, it comes to more bluff and puff. So Coral is one of the strongest cards in this deck, and what you can do with her is one of two things. One is this deck is based off of one of my earlier videos. I've done a lot of videos on Skellige. I think Skellige is the most versatile deck, and it's always been really strong. Card advantage, resource management was the deck I built, and it basically focused around having more cards in your opponent to make the reads you need to make to win the game late. And how you do that, there's two ways. One, Ciri. Ciri is just so important, especially in round one, or if you win round one using your discard, playing her in round two is just such a huge advantage. Morkvarg, you play him in round one using King Brand, you're always going to be able to play him. That's one of the cards you search for. You play him, he's always there in round two and round three. And Ockfist, when played correctly. Because these Skellige War Longships are important, in round one, generally you've used them already for their discard and their damage. If you rejuvenate them and bring them back in round two, your opponent's thinking, oh god, here comes more card draw, more damage. You don't have any more. You're bluffing. So you're bluffing removals on your War Longships so that you can play Ockfist and get card advantage going into round three. It's just dynamite. And then with Coral, going back to her, what you do is you play her. Let's say you're playing Soyatel, which if you get to higher levels, trust me, you'll be playing a lot of Swim's Dwarf deck. There's only one way to beat Swim's Dwarf deck, and that's Dim Meridian Bomb and having card advantage, which is very hard against Soyatel, but I'll get to that in a minute. if you play Coral right behind his first row, or the opponent's first row, her first row, they think, oh my god, here comes Geralt Ard. So they use their first light. Instead of searching for more elves and build up, they now waste it to get it clear on whether for damage that's not coming. And you feel really good about yourself, trust me. Or they'll pass. Because they'll think, well, I'm screwed, I'm going to minimize the damage. And you steal around from them. And it feels, oh, so good. So that's one of the things you do. That's part of the bluff and puff. Roach is very important. Let's take a step back. Let's go through what all the cards do. So the first thing you need 3 Clan Heyman Scalds. And what they do is they help you compete with Soyatel Dwarf deck early on, or they help you compete with Monster Consumes early on by giving you power. Because what's going to happen is you're going to use your King Brand ability and your long ships, and you're going to build on the first and third row, the melee and the siege row. So what you're doing with the Scald is you're pumping those 2 rows up to keep yourself at an advantage to where you can continue to compete. And you want to stay in the game. The important thing with Skellige is that you are trying to keep up with them power-wise. You want to make sure you're constantly using some good plays, some smart plays, and you're making sure you're staying in the same kind of point range. Because what happens is if they get ahead of you too much, they will pass, which forces you to play more cards, which means that you are going to then lose your card advantage. You have to stay with them or ahead of them, and the best way to do that are the Scalds. So you can stack a row, either the melee or the siege, and the Scalds will keep your strength up, so that you can stay with them, so you can keep inside range of card advantage. And you're really trying to going back to the resource management thing, you're really trying to diminish their resources by playing yours, because you're pumping up Morkvarg. When you're using these Shieldsmiths that go with the Skulls, when you're using these Shieldsmiths, what you're doing is you're making an investment of your resources into Morkvarg for the later rounds. Your opponent is just playing cards. They're not getting any resources back. So you're sitting there playing for now and then for later with Morkvarg. They don't have that. So diminish all the resources they can to win late, which is a very few cards. So that's what they do. Now the Raiders do 2 things. One, when you use your hero ability with King Bran, they act as a discard. You pull them out in round 1, so you're trying to, in essence, the perfect scenario is you win round 1 with power. You draw out the resources in round 2 with just utility, Scalds, pump up Morkvarg. And then by round 3, they're so diminished and so done that you win because you've grinded them down. And that's kind of the thought process. So they work in that way. They're round 1 power. They also thin your deck to get to the stuff you need later on. The Clan Tordark Armorsmiths, what they do is you're going to go against a lot of weather decks. You will, unfortunately, they're out there, and you can thank me because I made them, but you're going to go against them. That is the guy you want to, when you go with your King Bran early on, you want to pull him out and put him in the graveyard for later to save you and maybe steal around with him. Roach is a deck thinning device, also some power because there's some controlling decks out there. He helps you with a little bit of power as well. Morkvarg is the key, the staple, the big bad wolf, the bluff and puff. He's going to huff and puff and blow your cards down. I don't know what you can do. Geralt Ignis is a really strong power play because now what happens is Swim's Dwarf decks have split into 2 rows to where they stack on 2 rows. One you can Diamond Bomb, the other one you can Igni it. Series huge for card advantage, absolutely a must-have. Coral's part of the bluff and puff. She'll either bluff, there's fog coming, or she'll puff and bring the rain and rain out your row. So, but to make her super effective, you need card advantage. Resource management. Of course, 3 Priestesses of Freya to bring back and stall out round 2, really, or to bluff and bring back a long ship in round 2, and they're like, oh my god, so use their removals on a card you don't even need, hence the bluff and puff. These guys in round 2 pump up Morkvarg, or in round 1 pump up Morkvarg to use a Scald on these guys in the back. It's just part of the synergy of keeping the power creep close. You have to keep close. If they get too far ahead of you, and they're at a card advantage, you can't lose card. You have to have card advantage. You are trying to bring them down in resources to the point where they have nothing left. And if they have more cards than you, they'll always have more, and that's never a good thing for you. You're trying to grind them down. Siegfrieda, obviously, to bring back cards. Octus for card control. Ermion to synergize with the long ships and to draw cards, obviously. Decoys are very fascinating in this deck. Decoys are to take spies. They're trying, you know, you're going to see Stennis against Northern Realms. Trust me. Mirror matches, you're going to see Donner. You got to use those to throw them back at them. Against Nilfgaard, sometimes they're good to throw cows back, so they function a lot of different ways. If you're not going against any kind of spy decks, like monsters, for example, they don't have any kind of spies that you can decoy or anything really good. Just decoy back a Priestess of Freya mid-game to kind of keep the power creep going, plus it makes them 4 or 5, depending on the round, or 6. You can also power creep a Shieldsmith. Also, it brings to mind a good thing. Make sure that you are using a Shieldsmith on one of your back row mates back here, so that if they do Gigning you, they don't take the whole row, they just take one of the guys you pumped up by 2. So I'll show you the record. This deck, I was at rank 12, like I said, kind of at the bottom of rank 12. I was fluctuating, playing some different decks. I went 37-20 with this deck, so 65% win percentage, 15-7 against monsters, who you see most often. And that's a good combination of Neckers and Weather monsters. 2-1 against Nilfgaard, 6-2 against Northern Realms. Honestly, Northern Realms is the easiest match because you just outpower them. You really do. 7-5 against Soyatel, 7-5 against Skellige. Tough matchups, tough decks. I ever play this deck. No one else has this. Life Coach had a similar version. This deck took what he did, tweaked it a little bit. I'm not exactly sure what version he had, but it was, you know, based off inspiration by him. So thank you to Life Coach for the idea, but it was based off of my Skellige resource for me. It's all about how you look at it. I don't think that he really is. Well, you know, I don't know. Who knows what he's thinking, but it's a good deck. It's solid. I made this video and I'm gonna try to climb up with it, see how high I can get. I might get pretty high with it. We'll see. But I wanted to make this video and give the exact record where I was when I got to Legend or rank 15. That's a good deck. The rank 15 Bluff and Puff. Shifu the cards. So that's the deck. You know, please go to GwenDB, vote for it, Gwenify. I would really appreciate it. It means a lot. I'm back. You know, there's a lot of hate in the community. But you know what? You gotta move past it. You gotta do what you do. Persevere. Just stay positive. People are gonna take your ideas. The important thing is that when you are in the position, you give people credit. So you maybe set the tone for the younger people. All right. So that's what the deck is. The rank 15 Bluff and Puff. I think it's pretty fun. I like it. Show you the leaderboard. There it is. Woo. Feels good. Feels good, man. Rank 15. Loving it. Loving life. All right, Shifu the cards. I will be starting streaming in a regular time, hopefully around April. I am moving, and my fiance, she streams as well. We're going to make a commitment to make ourselves stream, no matter how tired or sick or whatever. So, thanks everybody for supporting me. Thanks everybody for sticking in.